How are you guys doing tonight? Everyone doing all right? A lot of energy here. Guys, I am thrilled to be here, especially on baptism night, just celebrating with you all the crazy, crazy life change that's been happening around here. Give it up one more time for life change. Amazing. Super fun. Whoa. Like Dave said, I've been friends with Dave for 25 years. I should get an award for that, shouldn't I? I got to be honest today, being a part of this church, and I'm going to tell you the story. I was actually here at the very first meeting Dave ever had in his parents' house when he had 30 people in his living room, and he shared the vision of wanting to start Great Lakes Church. And then Dave and I, we went to the Brat Stop. You guys all know that place, right? Yeah, high class. And we were rolling there, and Dave, and he started crying after that. He said, I don't want to do it. And anyway, now I'm here 10 years later. And I am literally in awe of what's going on at Great Lakes Church. And I've been hanging out with our team. We brought them all the way from Houston, Texas. And I got to tell you, it's been one of the greatest privileges to hang out with you guys. You have a phenomenal leadership team and a phenomenal pastor. And I'm excited for where you guys are going to be going. You know, it's going to be just amazing as you look forward. But one thing that was disturbed me tonight, I got to be honest with you. When we started the service off, your lead pastor, Dave, came up here, and he came up here in shorts. Did anyone see how white his legs were? I was in the back of the room. I'm like, I never knew, right? I would never do that to you guys. I just want you guys to know that. It's a big deal. So to help Dave out, what we're going to do is take an extra offering for some tanning bed services, okay? Or ladies, if you have any, or guys, if you're into that, if you have any, like, just kind of rub-on tan, just bring it in. We'll have an offering next week for that. Okay, guys, we're going to jump into this. They're in a series called The Struggle is Real. And in life, sometimes things sneak up on us. We don't see them coming, and at the last minute, they hit us. And as a result, we find ourselves in what we call battles. Things that happen that were out of our control, and suddenly, because they're out of our control, we often feel out of control. And so the truth of it is, one of the battles that we wrestle with, and no one likes to talk about it, and it's kind of the hidden battle. In fact, in the church world, this is the one we don't talk about because no one struggles with this because we're all humble, right? It's pride. Pride. It's the big one there. It's intertwined. We don't talk about it, like I said, especially in the church. And even Jesus dealt with it. But the thing is, we all have some of it. We deal with it at home. We deal with it at work. And when you think of pride, I got to ask you the question, what do you normally think of? If somebody asks me, say, first thing that comes to your mind when you say the word pride, you know what I think of? A narcissist. I think of who's the guy on American Idol, the main guy? Simon, the guy with all the hair popping out of his chest. I think of Simon Cowell. I think of these people that only think about themselves, okay? And, there's some Simon Cowell fans in the room. I think the show's off the air, guys. But I will tell you this. Narcissist, right? That's what we think of. And so I want to take a quick test today. I want to find out if there are any narcissists here tonight at church. So tonight we're going to do Are You a Narcissist test. Are you ready? Now, I know some of you that are here with somebody that you care about, you've been thanking God. You're just thanking God for this moment right now. You're like, I've been trying to, how do I get them to realize it? Okay, here's the first question. Ready? First one, this is to find out if you are a narcissist. Number one, think about yourself. Now, I want to let you know, if you've made it to step 2, you're not a narcissist. Okay, I just want you to know you're not a narcissist. So what is a narcissist? Here's what a narcissist is. Studies have done, and the numbers are absolutely shocking. And here's the thing. People think that you have to be a narcissist to actually wrestle with pride. So true or false? If I'm not a narcissist, I don't have an issue with pride. False. The answer is false. You know what the definition of pride is? It is an obsession with self. When you are obsessed with yourself, you're a narcissist. And proud people think of themselves all the time. And I got to be honest, as I was kind of working on this message and getting ready and developing the thoughts here, I actually started thinking, how much do I think about myself? How much am I looking in the mirror? How much am I thinking about my comfort? How much of my life is around making me feel better rather than caring about the world around me? And the truth is, a lot. And you might be sitting here thinking today, man, I wish my boss was here because he's a total narcissist. Some of you, like I mentioned earlier, you're married, and you're married to a narcissist. You're like, oh, why didn't they come to service today? Some of you think, but here's the question that I want all of us to think about today. It's this. What about you? I want you to ask yourself a question. Are you a person that struggles with pride? Is that a battle that you are facing in your life today? For me, the answer is unequivocally yes. I'm a pastor at a church, but I struggle with pride. My wife would be the first one to testify that. She'd be like, oh, Tom, yes, you do. And I would tell you this, because pride is something that can creep inside of every single one of us. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some terms that go around that word pride. And every week we've kind of been wrestling through a word and then an antidote for that. And does anyone know what the antidote for pride is? Thank you. It's humility. And that was somebody from my own church that yelled that, okay? So it's like I set it up. Humility, right? What is humility? We're going to actually drill down and get into that today. But here's another word. And I found a word that's actually more interesting and another word that we've never talked about. And it's a word that rarely comes up in conversations, but it's the next door neighbor to the word humility. You know what it is? Humiliation. Some of you are going right back to your 7th grade year in school. You're like, you remember the year you got depantsed and, humiliation. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time that you literally felt humiliation? I thought about it in my own life. Maybe it was for you when you went out on a date, and the whole date you were sitting there looking good, smelling good, talking good, and all of a sudden you had something in your teeth the entire night, and the other person didn't tell you. Yes, somebody said, yeah, that's you. What would be humiliation for you? Ask yourself the question, what would it take to make you feel humiliated? I actually thought about it this week, and I got to tell you, here's what would make me feel humiliated. What would make me feel humiliated all the way back when I was a junior higher to when I'm in my 40s today, to this day, would be this thing. You're not going to hear another word I say the rest of the night. And guys, I wish they had brought me a warm cup of water. That's all I'm going to say. I've never been more embarrassed in my life, y'all. I don't know you. This is getting videoed. It's probably going to end up on YouTube somewhere. A pastor, a grown man that's been in control of his bowels most of his life. I'm sitting up here soaking wet. It's humiliating. Because I actually thought about it. I said, what would be the most humiliating thing I could do? Because I wanted us tonight to actually feel the word, to feel it. That's why I did that. And it would be like that for anyone. Do you know what humiliation really is, guys? Here's the thing. Humiliation is a place where you actually think that you're better than you are. Humiliation is you think you're up here, but somebody else thinks you're down here, and there's a gap there. That gap between where you think you are and where other people actually think you are is called pride. And in the middle of it, we all wrestle that battle. Ladies, some of you say, hey, I can't. You're humiliated if you go out in public and you forget your favorite lipstick. You're like, oh, I'm humiliated. I don't have my lips on the way I always do. Guys, we're not quite like that, but you know what? You get humiliated if one of your kids actually scratches your car. My kids, I got my dream vehicle. I'm down in Texas right now, and I got my dream vehicle. My dream vehicle, it's not an expensive car. It's just a car I've been dreaming about. It was a Jeep Wrangler. So I'm driving around my Jeep Wrangler, and I got to be honest, my kid scratched my car the other day. I don't have a new car. Mine's a 2013, and that's the newest car I've ever had. And so my kid scratched it. I wanted to just kill my kid. Come on, be real. Dad's in the room. If you got the car of your dreams and your kid scratched it, what would you do? It'd be a wrestling match, wouldn't it? You'd be like, I love them, I made them, but they scratched my car, right? I'm not sure which way. Guys, I got to be honest, there are things in our life that we get humiliated about if it doesn't go our way, if things change. So here's the thing. Some of you get humiliated if your grass is too tall and your yard doesn't look as good as your neighbor's yard down the street. Some of you say, oh, don't show that picture of me because I'm overweight in that picture. So what you do is you try to take a selfie, and every picture you have is like 11 feet tall doing this. Try not to get your double chin showing, my favorite side. That's what we do. We don't want to be humiliated. We get upset if somebody recognizes the gap between where we think we are and where we actually are. And therein lies the problem. Maybe you went to a meeting at work and you walked out of me, you're like, I nailed that meeting. My boss was impressed, only to hear later on in the afternoon, they all thought you bombed. You're like, what happened? What is going on? You thought you were up here, but you were really down there. That is humiliation. Here's the thing. Maybe you thought you were getting raised, and you walked out of the meeting, and you realized you don't have a job anymore. Whoa, what happened? See, the gap is our pride. I got to tell you, my son, he's 9 years old, and I have a 15-year-old daughter, and my son is learning basketball right now. And he's pretty amazing, so we signed him up for a league like most dads do, and I'm sitting here watching a game the other day, and here's what happened. There was a coach on the bench, and there was a referee there, and the score was pretty epic. They had played the entire game. There's 1 minute left in the 9, 10-year-old basketball league. Hey, the score was 5-4. And the team that had 5 scored 3 free throws. So it was on the edge of your seat, But it came down to it. It's crazy. And one of the coaches looks over, and there's 20 seconds left, and the team that was down 5-4, the team that had 4, suddenly got fouled. And the coach stands up from the bench, looks over and said, "You missed that call. What are you doing? I can't believe you did that." And the ref just looks at him, looks up at him, and he almost does this motion. You know what this motion is? Not timeout, tech. Tech. Can you imagine if that coach got a technical when their team was down 5-4? You know the problem with this story? I was the coach. It was me. I could hear it now. 10-year-old, 10 and U under basketball league loses its 4th game in a row because Pastor blows it with the referee. And guys, I'm going to even make it one worse. I wasn't even the main coach. I am the assistant coach. The main coach walked over to me and he said, "Hey, Tom, can you sit down now?" I said, "Yes, sir, no problem." Guys, I got to tell you, it's our pride that gets in the way, right? And do you know what humiliation is? If we could break it down into just a real definition, it is involuntary humility. We don't volunteer for it, but it's involuntary humility. That's the definition of humiliation. And when you get humiliated, something or somebody humbled you. That's the reality. And maybe you've been in moments where you've been in a conversation and somebody says, "I can't believe you said that." Or, "Man, I'm so embarrassed by your actions right now." And here's what we have to understand. If we are easily embarrassed, at the very root of that is this word that we often don't see coming. It's called pride. And you think that you don't wrestle with it. For a long time, I thought I didn't wrestle with it. But yet it's really there in the background almost all the time. See, how do you get to a place where you're not humiliated? How do you get to a place where you're like, "You know what? No one can take me down." I want to talk about that for a few minutes today. Here's the thing. I did this to myself. This water on the pants thing, this is awful. But I did this to myself. Do you know why I did it? I wanted you to remember how humiliation happens. And the answer to pride is always humility. But we have to learn how to take ourselves off of the pedestal. We have to learn that if we take ourselves off of the pedestal, no one can knock us down. Now, let me just say something here just to be clear. I'm not talking about having low self-esteem. I'm not talking about seeing yourself as unworthy and you're not good enough for the world. That's not what I'm talking about. But that thing that makes us go, it's the strut. Ladies, you got it. It's just different. And dude, you can go to any sports bar, any restaurant, and you can see the guy that walks in that's got the strut. You can go to any health club and see the guy that has a strut. And you go to the ones that haven't been to the health club, they're like, it's just the reality. But the truth of it is, when the answer is humility, we have to learn to take ourselves off of the pedestal. You have to view yourself with a sober mindset or a realistic vantage point. And you can't really be embarrassed or humiliated when you see yourself like that. When you have a realistic mindset of who you are, how you're gifted. And so I want to give you the big thought today. And the big thought today is it's something that we all need to understand and realize. And it's simply this. Only humility will get you out of what pride got you into. Think of your biggest jams in life. The time when you're like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? How did I end up here? The places and spaces in your life where you got there, more than likely it was rooted in pride. I found myself at the 4th grade basketball game about to be ejected and my son weeping in tears because I lost the game for him. Because I wanted to let that referee know that I had an opinion. It's pride, guys. Maybe you're spending too much money right now. And you're trying to keep up with your neighbors because they got the shiny new car. Maybe for you, maybe somebody scratched your Jeep. I don't know. Maybe you have to understand that pride won't fix that. It's probably only going to make it worse. Maybe you got to get to the place where you go, you know what? I need to act out my wage. I need to, instead of always trying to keep up with the Kardashians, I have to understand that God has given me an amount of money. I need to be frugal with it. I need to make wise decisions in it. And with those wise decisions will come blessings because I'm stewarding it instead of just spending it. Humility is the thing that says, you know what? Hey, boss, you're right. I have been late to work. I was wrong. I got to own that. You asked me to do that report, and you said get it in by Friday, and it's Monday, and you're asking me for the second time. I need to own that. I forgot to get it to you. Humility needs to say, you know what, guess what? Humility says, I'm just going to take the responsibility. But you know what pride will do? Pride will do the opposite. It'll make excuses. Oh, I had a busy weekend. My kid's arm broke. I had things going on. I'm sorry. I'll get that to you. Pride will make excuses. Humility will take ownership. That's how it works. Because you know why? Only humility will get you out of what pride got you into. And I want to just surprise for all of us tonight. Here's the surprise. Pride dwells deeply, even in the hearts of insecure people. Wow, pride is only for those that think they're better than others. No, pride is deep in the hearts of all of us who think we're not good enough. We either walk around this planet thinking that we are a hero or we feel like we are a zero. And the truth is, neither of those things are honest. See, pride is an obsession with self. When you feel bad about yourself, you think about yourself over and over. Think about a person who's fallen into depression, who can only see their little world. They don't have the ability to look at somebody else that has a need and care about them. There is no way in the world they're going to be sending money overseas to start clean water wells. There's no way they're going to be helping be a mentor to somebody at the junior high school. When you're in a depression, your whole world gets like, and it's all about you. And you know, even the darkest of the dark is still kind of rooted in pride. And we forget that so many times. So I want to ask a question. How do you know if you've got some pride in you? How do you know if you're actually walking through this planet and you've got insecurities much like anyone else? So what I want to do is this. I want to give you 5 signs today that you will wrestle with insecurity. And here's number 1. You wrestle with insecurity because number 1, if you compare yourself to others. If you compare yourself to others, you walk around going, well, I'm better dressed than they are. My kids are more well-behaved than them. You know, I still got my hair. My legs are tanner than Dave's. You know, whatever it may be. Second one, you also find out that you're wrestling with insecurity if your self-worth is determined by your latest results. My kids got straight A's. Booyah! I hit my quota at work. I'm strutting in like this in the morning. I know those poor saps, they might be let go, but not me because I'm way over. Some of you are saying, you know what, guess what? I've got things going on in my hobby right now. I'm the top scorer. I'm the best of the best. And your latest results are the thing that drive you in your life. Do you know what that is? That's insecurity. It is. Let me give you the third one. You know that you're insecure if you can't celebrate somebody else. You cannot be happy for them. You can't be happy if you're single and they're dating. You cannot be happy if you're trying to have a baby and somebody else gets pregnant. You can't be happy if they get the promotion and you don't, and you can't walk up to them and genuinely go, you know what, congratulations, I'm happy for you. You can't do it. You're like, they don't deserve it. The manager didn't like them. How'd they get picked? You know, they're just a suck up. You know, or whatever it is, we start telling ourselves stories. Here's the other, maybe they get A's and you work your butt off and you're still you're getting C's. It doesn't work that way. Let me give you number 4. How do you know if you're wrestling with insecurity? You squeeze, this is big, you squeeze gifted and talented and amazing people out of your life. I didn't know this. This was a self-discovery for me because there are amazing, gifted, talented people that because I felt like I was less than them, I turned away from them. And oftentimes, there was a season in my life, about 3 years, where they were reaching out to me, and I stopped reaching back to them because I didn't feel good about who I was. And I'm going to be really honest with you. Dave and I, your pastor, have been friends for 25 years. Dave was one of those guys. There's a couple years, he'd reach out and call, and we'd be talking. I'd be like, Dave, yeah. But I was a little jealous. I was a little jealous that from that day where we met at his parents' house, and then we went to the Brat Stop, and then you started out, and you went into the school and the movie theater, and now you guys have these buildings and land and all this killer cool stuff going on, and it's all God movement. There was a point in my life, I'm like, you know what? Why aren't you doing that for us in Texas? I always thought, God, you like Texas more than anywhere else. Do you realize we all do it? Even pastors do it. We struggle with insecurity. And we forget that the struggle is so real. And so we have to pay attention to that. Here's another one. Some of you out there, you wrestle with insecurity. Here's a way that you're going to find out. You have to have your say in everything. Moms, you got to tell your kids when to study, how to dress, when to get picked up, who to date, who not to date, what music to listen to, when they're on their screens. You don't give your kids an inch to breathe, and they're like, oh, you know. That got real. Is your mom here? Or your dad here? You're a mother? You don't look old enough to be a mother, right? This is awkward. Okay, so. Do you get it, though? You want your say in everything. In the end, where does it lead to? I'm going to give you some things. If you're an insecure person and you continue to go down this route in life, let me give you where let me put some words up here on the screen. Here's what pride will do. Pride will make you feel superior. Pride will also lead you into being judgmental. And pride will lead you, and this is a big one, y'all, because some of you are there today, and you're wondering how you got there. It'll make you feel isolated. It will literally leave you there. Isn't that convicting? Is this where we want to be? Here's a better question. Is this a life well lived? It's a fair question. I know there are a lot of pastors out there, a lot of CEOs, a ton of politicians out there, and they struggle with this. You know why? Because their pride has gotten the best of them. And guys, it can happen to all of us. And here's what I love, that when we look into Scripture, God knows the human condition better than any one of us. And he truly understands what we've been talking about tonight, that only humility can get us out of where our pride will end up taking us. And so here's the thing. Jesus said, you've got a choice to make. And Jesus said over and over and over throughout Scriptures, he basically said, you can be humiliated or you can humble yourself. How many of you right now can think of areas of your life you need to choose to get off your pedestal and experience a little, and choose, not experience, but choose humility before you are humbled by another source? It's true. Maybe it's time for all of us to take ourselves down just a notch or two. Hasn't your spouse or your partner or your friend been trying to whisper that in your ears for a long time, that you need to just calm it down in that area? You think you're a little better than maybe you are? I love C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest theologians that ever walked the planet. He wrote a quote about humility that I thought was so interesting. It says this: humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. See, C.S. Lewis understood that you and I have the image of God inside of us. And that's the very thing that makes us wonderful and marvelous and powerful. That's the part of our lives that God whispered and said, you are unique and special. And so for us to learn to walk in humility, it takes commitment. It also takes self-awareness. And I'm going to be honest, it takes courage to be the one to say, I struggle with humility. I struggle with pride. It's a battle in my life. I am choosing not to be obsessed with me. Why? Because that's what insecurity does. It makes you obsessed with yourself. It's a big deal. That's one of the reasons at our church, and I'm sure absolutely sure it's right here at Great Lakes too, that we challenge our church all the time to grow in serving others. We call it others first. Every single day we wake up and say, instead of my life being made better, how do I make somebody else's life a little better? How do I serve somebody else? And then the other side of it is too, guess what? If God has blessed me with resources and talents and money, that is not for me to build up my own little nest egg and my own little empire. It is to flow through me so God can do something great. I got to be honest. 10 years, Great Lakes Church has been rolling, and you have reached thousands of people. Some of you in this room have had life change like never before. Tonight was a beautiful, amazing picture of people that have had their lives rocked by God. And the reason that's happened is because some of you in the room, what you said is, hey, you know what? I'm going to give back to God because that's a priority in my life. And because of that, God leveraged it. You know, God leverages what we give and invests it, and it always grows. God has the ability to multiply what we can only add. That's the truth. So here's what Jesus did. He challenges us to remove pride from the center of our lives, and he invites us to go against the culture, to go against the stream. And here's what he said. He also understood the fact that either we will humble ourselves or we might experience humility another direction. He talked a lot about it. Here's the thing. There's a scripture that says God resists the proud, but he always gives grace to the humble. And the early Christians were trying to figure this out. They were following this new movement called the Way, and they were following this man of Jesus, and yet they're living in a world where there's so much pride and insecurity around them, and they were trying to navigate that. And Paul, he wrote a letter to one of the early churches. He wrote a letter to the churches in Philippi, and in this letter, he explained that one of the goals of maturity is to be growing to be more and more like Jesus. That's why Philippians 3, if you read it with me, it says, let me give you the first part. He wrote to the church in Philippi, he says, don't be selfish. Now, honestly, if I had a mic in my hand, we could drop the mic right now and go home. Because that's like the biggest thing. Hey, don't be selfish. I scream that to my 9-year-old and my 15. Hey, quit being selfish. Do the dishes. Bring your plate to the sink. Pick up your socks. Do not. One time I did, my kid came up to me and was walking by and his clothes were on the floor. And I said, hey, son, stop. Do me a favor. Ask Dad right now to pick up your dirty socks and underwear. Ask me. Because by not picking them up, that's what you're doing right now. Ask me. And he stared at me like, is this a trick question? He was giving me that look, right? As parents, that's what we do. We corner our kids and put them in awkward moments and try to trick them. And we call it parenting. And I'm in my moment. And I said, ask me to pick them up. And he goes, no, I shouldn't do this, should I, Dad? I said, why don't you pick them up? He picked them up. He never forgot. Here's the thing, guys. Don't be selfish. And then Paul writes to the church, he says, don't try to impress others. Don't walk around trying to impress others so they think you're better than you are. Guys, literally, this is the part of the message where we could sit here for 20 to 30 minutes and talk about social media. I'm smiling, but I'm going to be candid with you. I spend more time on social media than I would ever dare to admit. I don't binge watch TV anymore. I'm just doing this. I sell stuff on Facebook. Do you guys ever sell stuff? In fact, you guys are welcome to buy anything from me on Facebook. I'll be your friends tonight. I will ship it up here to you. But I'm going to be candid with you. When I get on social media, it's all about trying to let people see who you are and what you're doing and let them know. And sometimes it's just to celebrate, but other times it's just them propping themselves up. And I've been caught in the middle of it too. Scripture says, don't try to impress others. And then it goes on to say, Paul said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be humble. I want you to think of others as actually better than yourself. One of the greatest stats out there for healthy and successful marriages is this. It's when spouses that make it to the long haul, they go past 20, 25 years of marriage, they typically have an unhealthy view of their spouse, an unhealthy view in a positive direction. They see the best in their spouse, even if somebody else looking in the outside would go, they're not that great. I want you to think for just a minute. How do you see your spouse today? Are you overly positive about them, or you're like, you know what? They're this and this and this. Over the years, I thought they were going to be this, but you know what? They're only this. And they're lucky I'm just sticking around. You know what I'm saying? That's the truth right there. Think of others better than yourself. And then it goes on to say, don't look out for your own interest, but take an interest in other people. I love this church. You know what I love about this church? You guys are constantly looking for opportunities to take an interest in the world around you. You're constantly looking for places and spaces where you can run, and where there's a little bit of darkness, you can shed some light. You can be a flashlight. You can be a beacon of light. You can find a place where the light goes through the cracks. Great Lakes Church is absolutely doing that here in Racine and Kenosha. I love what's going on here. I pray for you guys all the time because you're not just looking out for yourself. You're caring about the world around you. And then I love the verse says, verse 5, you got to have the same attitude that Christ had. Though he was God, he didn't think of equality with God as something to cling to. In other words, he said, yeah, I'm a part of God, but I understand my place. I understand my space on the totem pole. I understand that he is God, and I'm here as a son to follow him. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave. He was born as a human being. And when he appeared in human form, he again humbled himself in obedience to God. And he died a criminal's death on a cross. Guys, we forget that Jesus died not just so we can have a good story, not just so we have a good narrative, not just the church can have some good architecture and we just have some crosses everywhere. He died a criminal's death so we could come alive. So we could see that the world, that when we get a chance to serve other people and make them the heroes, guess what happens? God begins to restore and lift us up. That's the way it works in the kingdom of God. Why the cross? Why the death? Because Jesus understood that only humility will get you out of what pride has gotten you into. Some of you are like, man, at work, you need to tell your boss, I didn't get it done. I got to be really honest with you. So here's the cool part. Here's the good news. Are you ready? Humility is a habit. Humility is something every single one of us has the ability tonight or today to start growing in. And I want to give you the habits of the humble. Number one is this. Habits of the humble. Never lose your gratitude. Never lose your gratitude. Never say, oh, I wished I had. Hey, no, I'm grateful. I'm breathing today. I'm blessed to be alive. Hey, guess what? My car runs. So what if it's got a scratch on it? Take the low place. Take the low place. Understand that you could always try to put yourself above, but choose to go to the end of the line. Choose to like somebody else's Facebook post. Choose to not try to outdo somebody at work. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make you the hero. And you just watch how God begins to lift you up and put you at the front of the line, because that's what God does. And God does it in such a way that you and I can never maneuver ourselves to do it ourselves. Let me give you number 3. Learn from anyone. My whole team left Houston, Texas. We got on a plane. We came up here. We're spending 2 or 3 days up here today. You know why? Because we believe Great Lakes Church has something to teach us. You guys have learned a lot of things. And our team is sitting here, and myself included, saying, what can we take that we can apply in Texas and that God would bless and that would make us more effective in reaching people? Guys, let me ask you this. What age are you right now that you ever stop learning? If we're really going to keep growing in humility, we learn from anyone. I walk into our kids ministry at our church, and I look at little kids, and I'll see a little kid, and I'm mad that something bad didn't happen, something didn't happen in church, and I'll see a little kid going, I'm like, dude, he gets it. Life is about having joy. Life is about learning to dance in those crazy moments. Even a little kid can teach you something. Never, ever, ever refuse to learn from somebody that you think is lower than you, because you'll miss some of the greatest life lessons that God has for you. That's the truth. Number 4, learn to push other people into the spotlight. When you get into the habit of this, when you get into the habit of making other people the heroes, you know what will end up happening? Your insecurity will start to fade, and you'll start to be the one going, yeah, I'm for them. I'm for them. I'm so excited for them. That is awesome. Woo! You know what that feels like when you become somebody else's cheerleader? It's one of the most exhilarating moments in life. But when you're so busy trying to be cheered for, we miss it. And the truth is, learning to push other people into the spotlight. So here's the question for you. When you live on the floor, you have a sober, realistic view of yourself, no one can knock you down. Because the truth is, when we live without humility, it will take us into a place of pride, because only humility will get you out of what your pride got you into. Would you pray with me today? Jesus, we love you. And we are trying to learn to love you more. And you're so amazing. And Jesus, when you came to this planet, you lowered yourself. You died a sinner's death so the grace and your unconditional love could flood this planet. And God, thank you that it's flooding Kenosha and Racine. Thank you that it's flooding this area in Wisconsin. Lord, I pray that every single one of us would begin to grab a hold of humility. And as we grab a hold of it, God, our pride would begin to lose its grip on us. And that, Father, we would rejoice more with other people. We would get excited for others, God. We would begin to see the life that we've desired to live instead of living in our fear and insecurity. God, we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.